Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Let's Simplify with your host Parag and Manu and our esteemed guest Shubhayu. Before we begin, let me just give a quick intro about ourselves and then Shubhayu. Manu and I are co-founders of Simplify Money. हम लोगों ने साथ में 7-8 साल इससे प्रीवियस कंपनी में काम किया है. उसके बाद हमको काफ़ी टाइम से लग रहा था कि कुछ करना है. हमको मनी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करनी है यंग एडल्ट्स के लिए और उनको सोशल मीडिया के ट्रैप से बचाना है और गलत एडवाइस से बचाना है और उन गलतियों से बचाना है जो हम कर चुके हैं. दैट्स वाई वी क्रिएट और कि इसको हम टेक्नोलॉजी से सॉल्व करना चाहते थे. सो वी क्रिएटेड आवर ऐप called Simplify Money. It's an AI-powered personal finance companion. But we think that this message needs to go out along with some of the success and failure stories which are there because we know a lot of people जिन्होंने बहुत मेहनत करके अभी तक बहुत कुछ अचीव किया है and they are not as celebrated as they should be. That's why we have today our guest Shubhayu जो I know from कॉलेज डेज एंड हम लोग की फर्स्ट कंपनी एक ही साथ थी माइंडट्री और शुभायु इज़ अ वेरी अकम्पलिश्ड प्रोफेशनल. उसने मोर देन 18 years काम किया इफ़ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग एंड ही इज़ अ डायरेक्टर ऑफ इंजीनियरिंग राइट नाउ. ही हैंडल्स एंड टू एंड डिलीवरी, न्यू वर्टिकल्स, न्यू प्रोडक्ट्स. He introduces or he scouts for things which can make money for his company, and he has worked in many organizations like Honeywell, Mindtree, and many reputed names. So, welcome, Shubhayu.
Thank you, Parag.
I'm Shubhayu, supremely excited to hear about your experiences.
Thank you, Manu.
Or because we want to keep this really real and we want to share real life stories for real people. तो मैं वहाँ से स्टार्ट करना चाहता हूँ जब हम पहली बार मिले थे शुभायु. मुझे नहीं याद तुझे कितना याद है पर इफ़ यू रिमेंबर हम लोग इंटर्नशिप साथ में कर रहे थे माइंडट्री में. And let me take you back to January 2007, Bangalore. You were still in Bangalore. और तब हम you came from Hyderabad, I came from Jaipur, our respective colleges. और मनु मेरा और शुभायु का रूम एक ही साथ अलॉट हुआ.
Oh yes.
अरे नाइस.
और मैं रूम में आया, मैं बहुत एंथुसियास्टिक था कि नए दोस्त मिलेंगे, नए लोगों से बातचीत होगी, कुछ बढ़िया सीखेंगे, कुछ बड़ा करेंगे. शुभायु मेरे से मिला और शुभायु ने फिर बस्ता उठाया और चला गया दूसरे रूम में कि यार मेरा ऑलरेडी अरेंजमेंट हुआ, तो देख लियो जैसे भी. बट इवेंचुअली वी बिकेम ग्रेट फ्रेंड्स और हम लोग इतने ज़्यादा बढ़िया दोस्त हो गए थे कि काउंटर स्ट्राइक खेल रहे होते थे हम लोग. तो जनरली लोगों का ट्रेनिंग के दिनों में और जनरली लोगों का होता है कि they take their preferred guns, they storm out और जाके सबसे पहला हेडशॉट लेना है, ये करना है. शुभायु की ये क्वालिटी है कि शुभायु वहां पे भी स्ट्रेटेजाइज करता था उन दिनों से जब वो एक कि वो छुप के बैठा हुआ था और हमारे में ये प्लान था कि छुप्पू दोस्त है, हम दोनों छुप्पू दोस्त हैं कि हम छुप के बैठे हुए. स्नो जैसे मैप में भी हम लोग छुप के बैठते थे, वेट करते थे कि राइट कि वेट करते थे कि ऐसी जगह मिल जाए जहाँ पे सब लोग मर जाएं और फिर हम मारने जाएं. तो आई नो
स्पेशली लास्ट में वो नाइफ से जब आप किसी को किल करते हो और जो किक मिलती है.
Oh yeah. तो नाइफ राउंड पहला होता था. बाय द वे, जस्ट टू ऐड ऑन, मैं छुपने की जगह ढूंढता था. बहुत टाइम ऐसा होता था कि मैं पराग वी वुड एंड अप बीइंग एट द सेम प्लेस. वी वुड थिंक सो सिमिलरली. We would find that same corner to find and ambush folks. So somewhere we had that synergy in the thought process, I would say.
Right. Great minds think alike. मैं ये बहुत देर से बोलने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ. ठीक है. शुभायु, please take us through your journey. I know you started with Mindtree, but उससे and before that you were in ICFI because we belong to the same college, same alma mater. But what do people do not know about Shubhayu and what has been your journey? Please take us through it.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me here. So the journey has been pretty much an open book for everyone. And especially I would say the folks and the friends that you make as part of your college days. Because you are friends not because you have something, you are friends because you do not have anything. So those friends actually carry you a long way ahead in your life. So started my journey with Mindtree. Again, I wouldn't take a lot of credit on the engineering that we had done, but that's what where we happened to land. Learned a lot of things on the job. But I think
Hmm.
one thing that I can proudly say is whatever we took along our way, we actually accomplished it to the fullest and we mastered in it. So we didn't leave any stones unturned. So
That's right.
we got quite a few on-site opportunities that actually help build a corpus in the initial phases. What you do
Hmm.
with it is a different story, but that gives you kind of a leeway. And at that point in time, I would say the markets were quite imbalanced. What you get paid in Europe and in US as compared to the pay parity in India. I wouldn't say this. I wouldn't take the same stand today, क्योंकि I truly believe the Indian IT market, what we pay today, is really substantially good to what we pay in US as well. So those were the early days. Took some opportunities, but one thing that really helps you in that part is as you learn different culture, you are very open towards different thought processes.
Hmm.
That diversity really starts to show up in the way you approach to your thought process or your work, because now you have access to or you have worked with people from many cultures, and that
Hmm.
kind of help you grow as well in the organization. uh, I think the next job for me was with Honeywell, where it was more towards the product engineering.
Hmm.
So that was a change from a service engineering mindset to a product engineering mindset. And with that, when I started growing up the ladder, one thing really that drove me was how can I have my Indian team at par with
Hmm.
the global team? Because somewhere when we were talking to the teams, always they would feel that they would have to wait for approvals. There would be someone who would come and say that this is how it needs to be done and this
Correct.
is the right way to do. How can I grow my team so that they think that they are equal partners on in the meeting and at the table? I think that drove me to the next organizations, product based organizations, to drive this culture and drive that sense of ownership. And even till date, I work for a Fortune 200 company, but I still tell to my team that you guys work as a startup, because if you own something, if you are working in a large corporate organization, you might have thousand reasons to say why you could not accomplish your job. But
Hmm.
that one single reason, if you think that this is my own company, this is my own product, you will find an answer to get things done. And that
Hmm.
is what differentiates you. So that has been my journey on the professional front, Parag.
Hmm. Awesome, यार. You touched on very good points. सबसे पहले तो that Indian IT market pays well.
हम्म।
तो कितनी सैलरी मिल रही है शुभायु फिर ऐसे
ये
मतलब?
छोड़ के बाकी सब कुछ बताऊंगा.
I'm just kidding.
हम्म।
So I think one important point जो हम आगे भी डिस्कस करेंगे related to money is कि कितनी भी सैलरी मिल रही हो, आप उस सैलरी को कैसे मैनेज कर रहे हैं, that defines your journey for the future and how you lead your or get to your rich life. That is one key
True.
point which is takeaway. But you mentioned कि Honeywell के बाद वाला switch was very very product centric. कि यू हैड दिस कॉन्शियस कॉल कि मैं अगला स्विच करूंगा तो प्रोडक्ट के बेस पे ही करूंगा या प्रोडक्ट कंपनी में ही जाऊंगा. उससे पहले वाले में भी ऐसा कुछ था या इट वाज यूजुअल कि मेरे को ग्रोथ चाहिए, पैसा चाहिए एंड लेट्स जस्ट मेक अ स्विच? और अभी तक कितने स्विच सिर्फ पैसे के लिए किए हैं या वो आखिरी
I
था?
would say, I think the first switch that I made
हम्म.
was somewhere related to money.
हम्म.
It was not related to work. It was not related to uh, a designation or a promotion. Finances played a major role.
हम्म.
But from that point on, and that happened to be the one that I got. It was not a very conscious one as
हम्म.
compared to that time. I had probably 6 years of experience.
हम्म.
Today, after 18, you would probably narrow down where you want to invest as an
करेक्ट.
organization.
हम्म।
So
करेक्ट.
the thought process is very different today as compared to what it was. So I wouldn't
हम्म.
say the first one. I wish I could say कि सब कुछ सोचा हुआ था और मैंने ऐसा ही किया, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है. It just
हम्म.
happened to be. the way it happened.
And I think that's the beauty of it, right? अगर हम
कुछ
कॉलेज से बाहर
चीजें
आके सब कुछ
नहीं
प्लान
होती है.
करेंगे तो हम कुछ ज़्यादा ही जल्दी मैच्योर हो गए, और इट्स नॉट good for enjoying the experiences of life as well. Cool. Or I see a sense of achievement when you mentioned कि इंडियन टीम बनानी थी जो कि which was at par with their global counterparts. So I see a tinge of patriotism here, as well as a mission driven thought process कि ये तो अचीव करना ही करना है. तो was that a conscious call? You want to elaborate on that?
I think it was, and it was also based on the learnings. It was, again, we have been colonized for so many years that somewhere we
Right.
have to come out of the mindset that we need someone else's approval to move forward.
Right.
I think that somewhere in the software industry is that revolution is slowly coming, and also it is also driven by the fact that we have to improve the way we approach to problem solving. The other part or other aspect with which I do this is when I talk to my team in US or in Europe, someone is a software developer because that person wanted to be a software developer. Here, I do not get that answer. Here, someone is a
Right.
software developer क्योंकि job शायद कहीं और मैकेनिकल में नहीं मिला. And
Correct.
that's fine. That's fine. But now, once you are a software developer, you have chosen this as your profession. You have to give in your 100%.
हाँ, हमारी तरह नहीं बोल सकते कि हम तो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स बैकग्राउंड से हैं,
इसलिए
ये
मुझे
कर
नहीं
नहीं
पता
पाएंगे.
है.
नहीं, मुझे पता
If you have to, if you have to have an equal setting at that table,
नहीं.
you need to display that kind of a maturity as well.
Right. That's right. That's absolutely right. So what you are emphasizing is that you might land up at a place where you have not thought of, but once you have done that, you need to own it up and own
Absolutely.
the room. Awesome. That's a great thought. And you also mentioned that now markets pay well. And I'm sure
True.
this is coming from your experience, what you have been paying as a paymaster to people you are onboarding in your organization, current or previous ones, and what you have seen in other markets. So, what trends do you see in terms of money earned and money spent, and how is it different जो हमारे टाइम पे कर रहे थे?
Different का तो पता नहीं, लेकिन now I see it there is a polarization. And when I look at some of the youngsters, when I talk to them, some of them have good consciousness towards money. So they have started investing, even though they are in college. They say that
Right.
since my college, I have been doing this. Okay. So
Correct.
there is some amount of awareness towards, I would say, we all had awareness towards money, but I'll tell you how we used to approach, and these guys are more towards equity based exposures. Okay. There is an other side which is, and I shouldn't be the one criticizing about anyone, but you would see, I know how much they make. I wouldn't want to spend every day on a Starbucks. It
Correct.
becomes a social symbol or a status symbol where you are, again, someone might be addicted to coffee, including myself,
Correct.
but again, you will have to have a conscious decision of the value and how much you are spending in that month. So somewhere I feel that priorities are not well placed, I would say. Again, I am no one to judge anyone's life. It's their money, but I would say that way. Now, coming to our generation, I would say people who had consciousness toward money always had, but it was more towards a very safe way of investment. Also, because our generation or our parents' generation mostly were in government jobs. So,
That's right.
the first thing that you would get to hear is to invest in something like LIC, right?
That's right.
Because there is an assurity or guarantee towards it. So,
Correct.
and they would advise this with the thought process that they have a pension,
Correct.
right? Our generation does not have a pension. So
That's
that was a major premise, or I think that would be one of the reasons of constant argument that my parents' generation would think that I'm trying to chase a fast money making approach without understanding the fact that this generation does not have pension. And I would constantly try to have the argument that this does not make sense without understanding that where he or she is coming from, because they have the assurity or they have a guarantee of the next 40 years or 30 years when they retire. I think that would be a major difference in the outlook, how people look at money. I'm talking about the people who have that consciousness towards how they look at money today as compared to when we started working towards, when we started making our first paycheck.
Right. I think what you're highlighting is कि हमारे टाइम में even though disposable incomes were not that high, obvious reasons, and it was high compared to our previous generation, of course. But let's say जब हमारी पहली जॉब थी, I think what we earned was, if I'm not wrong, मेरा पेचेक 16,500 17,000 कुछ आया था.
Same.
और मैंने फर्स्ट पेचेक से आई बॉट अ मोटो रॉकर फोन जिसके ईयरबड्स यहाँ से ब्लूटूथ से आ रहे हो और मैं बाइक पे डाल के उससे घूम सकूं.
Awesome.
तो आई डोंट नो हाउ यू स्पेंड दैट, बट हाँ.
I had an
Second-
interesting
second-
story. तो सबका इंटर्नशिप के बाद जब सैलरी लगा था तो आई थिंक इट वाज सेम 16,000 या 16,500 फॉर एवरीवन, राइट?
करेक्ट.
एंड मैं पहले 6 महीने के सैलरी से मेरे पेरेंट्स के शायद 25th मैरिज एनिवर्सरी आ रहा था या कुछ तो ऐसा था उस टाइम पे. आई एक्चुअली गॉट देम अ डिजिटल कैमरा एंड
Nice.
आई वाज रियली प्राउड अबाउट कि मैं कुछ तो उनको दे पाया. It's maybe they didn't use that much, that's a different thing, but that's still there in my house क्योंकि मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि मैं अपनी सैलरी से पहली बार कुछ तो खरीदा था बचा के, वो भी क्योंकि 16,500 में ही मारा मारी लगी रहती थी.
True.
Damn it, Shubhayu, you are a gentleman. I feel envious.
वो रिस्पेक्ट लेवल और थोड़ा ऊपर चला गया.
पहले इतना बढ़िया बढ़िया सब पता चल रहा था और एक चीज ऐसी पता चल. खैर क्या कर सकते हैं, जो है सो वो है.
बता.
ठीक है. ऑल राइट. सो इन सब के बीच में शुभायु कुछ तो ऐसा हुआ होगा वेयर यू थॉट थिंग्स आर नॉट पैनिंग आउट, या यू वुड कॉल इट एज अ फेलियर विच हैज नॉट लाइक पुट यू डाउन बट हैज पुश्ड यू बैक एंड नाउ यू नीड टू फाइट बैक. व्हाट इज दैट थिंग विच यू वुड लाइक टू शेयर?
If I look from a financial point of view, I think we didn't have a well structured mechanism to approach to finance. उस टाइम पे क्या होता था, किसी ने बोला कि LIC करवा लो, और उस टाइम पे LIC 1 करोड़ का करवा लगता था कि बहुत है, मतलब इसके बाद तो जिंदगी और क्या, मतलब इतनी अय्याशी के साथ जिएंगे. No one taught you the impact of inflation, right? तो what I'm trying to say is कि उस टाइम पे the access to a structured knowledge base was very less. So you ended up investing. I wouldn't say I ever, at least I would want to call myself that I never tried to spend on something which was not needed. You might get a different opinion if you talk to my wife. Lekin, if I look at some of the investments that I did, probably I might want to rewrite them going back in time today, is the way I will put.
राइट. मैंने भी बहुत सारी LICs अपनी मदर की कैंसिल करवाई हैं बाय कोटिंग IRR खत्म है इसमें, या if you want to buy insurance it has to be pure insurance, stuff like that. But yeah, that's a great topic which we'll touch upon. Since all of us are technologists and we wanted to talk about technology, let's shift our focus towards technology. Shubhayu, what do you see ki where is technology going to help us with all this, and how do you see the emergence of AI? Jobs जाने वाली हैं, कुछ आसान होने वाला है. What kind of impact do you see?
There are two ways to look at AI, and two segments I would say, and Gartner does a good job in publishing this. So what they call it as an everyday AI, and what they call it, if I'm not wrong, as a niche AI, or what you create as a product based on AI. So I would say in the other segment, there are a lot of companies which are investing but are struggling to create an ROI based on the investment today. Okay? But on the other side, where you use AI as a productivity tool, there is a huge benefit. There is a huge acceptance also. Okay, and it is, see, there's no question AI is going to be there to help us make our jobs easier. Okay, whether that will lead to job loss or not would be a question that I would refrain from answering now, but definitely it's going to make our job easier. Starting from GitHub Copilot to everyday Copilot that you use in your Outlook, it actually is a very good productivity tool. But more than AI, what I would say is in this space where AI, and there are some of the things which are coming up in AI which can help us, or which I would say becomes a barrier today for some of the people in my previous generation, like my parents, is as the technology advancing, so are the cyber criminals as well. So every time you
True.
create a login, every time you share data, you have that you have that skeptical thought process: is someone going to misuse that data? Right? And people are finding innovative ways to counter this. I think that's where AI can actually help us a lot. Apart from the productivity that we are already leveraging AI from, and that scope is tremendous. That's where I would see AI playing a major role as well.
That's really interesting, Shubhayu. So one, I mean, you must be thinking, and you are into this technology domain. So any one innovation or any automation which you would like to see in this in your lifeline, which you want to happen, make it happen. So do you have any kind of
See,
matrix
I would,
like
in the
dream
space
to see?
in the space that I work out with, it is predominantly with IoT and AI. The
Hmm.
kind of discussions that we have literally blows your mind. Starting from the whole building being autonomous, the entire city being autonomous, right? I think
Hmm.
we are talking about lot of these AI segments today. There's a lot of recommendations built on AI, but still the trust on AI,
Hmm.
you want to have a human intervention on top of it. You are not letting AI run the building or the cars or cities autonomously run by AI. I think that would be a good. I do not know whether good or bad, but eventually it's going to lead to a point where it's going to be autonomous AI. It's taking its own decision and running it. Today, even for critical facilities, there is a human AI version for decision making, not only AI, I would say. I think that's the path to go forward.
Nice. I was about to ask you that. Ki, what advice would you give to people just joining the workforce who are already working, are 1 or 2 years experience? How should they use AI? Should they be scared of it? Should they incorporate it? या सब कुछ उसी से करवा लें?
There is no point being scared of it. They have to embrace it, and they have to learn to use it
Right.
and advance with it. And and in fact, I missed an important point that I should have talked about. In all our financial planning, we talk about children's education, we talk about house, we talk about retirement. Very, very seldom we have a bucket for personal upskilling. And I believe that everyone should have, might not be a huge corpus, 3 से 5 lakh, every 3 to 5 years, that money separated out for personal upskilling. Today we are talking about AI. Trust me, Parag, after 5 years, and Manu, after 5 years, it might be something else. People have to
Correct.
keep upskilling themselves. And as part of their financial goal, and if this is the space that they want to operate technology, they have to be on top of the technology every day. Otherwise, the day you're not learning something, it's as good as you're taking a step backward, because everyone is moving forward, right? So I think as part of the goals as well, there is no point in being scared with a new technology. We'll have to embrace it and learn to leverage it.
Hmm.
And also probably allocate a
Right.
fund to upskill yourself. It's not going to happen magically. I'm not going to close my eyes and automatically get all the gyan downloaded to my brain. That's not going to happen.
Right.
Sort of a personal development fund
Right.
you must have.
Oh yes, oh yes. Personal development, upskilling, whatever you call it. there has to be something. Or if I'm not using it, maybe it is a long pending wish कि मुझे terrace garden करवाना है. Always lower in the priority list.
Mm.
Maybe you can use it for that. I would prefer someone using it for their personal development, but those things actually help. It gives you a certain sense of accomplishment. Yeah, where I would say, again, we all post our earning. If we allocate some portion of that fund to help someone, my cook's daughter's education, it really, that small amount gives you that completeness in cycle of life. You are contributing back to society. Otherwise, सब कोई अपने लिए तो कमाता ही है.
What you're emphasizing, two great points. One being that we need to invest in ourselves, especially when we are young. That is the best kind of investment. The second being, once you grow in life, it is very important to lead a life which is holistic and balanced, and it needs to have multiple components. It could be social, self, or soul, or your own spirituality, and then what you are doing for society. That, I think that's very great point. तो इसी बात पे Shubhayu, tell me, what is your relationship with money and how has it evolved over a period of time?
It has definitely evolved. And I think I'll tell you the first memory of money or the first relationship. See, again, we all come from,
Right.
at least I can call for myself as a coming from a humble family
हाँ
of
हाँ, same ही है, same
upbringing.
ही है.
So I would remember my mom and dad in Almira. They would have different pouches and with physical money. They would allocate
Hmm.
that this is for grocery, this
Mm.
is for milk, this is for XYZ, right? I
Hmm.
think that would be my early recollection of money, and that also taught me a very important lesson to bucket out and to create
Hmm.
funds for everything, right? To a point today that my spending is actually not so it's not like what I save is what I am investing. I actually invest first, and then what I have left over.
Right.
So I have that clear thought process of what I need. These are my buckets, and what I'm left is for my spending. So I would say that is the relationship that has evolved over the course of years.
Right. Nice. So again, I think people who would be listening in have great lesson to learn. One is that you need to invest first before you start spending. And how much of a percentage would you like say you invest, or would you want somebody else to invest to build a corpus for themselves? Like, what is a healthy percentage? What one should aim for?
I can talk about myself. I shouldn't be telling what should others do. It's their money at the end of the day.
Right.
For me, almost more than 55% goes towards investment or savings. Then it goes towards
Oh,
my home
gee.
loan repayment. And then there is a bucket which goes towards my health insurance, my term insurance, and things like that. And then I have some RDs for my daughter's education. So some of the fixed
Hmm.
expenses that I know that I have to pay my property taxes, I need to
Right.
pay by April, I need to pay the. But the good thing is that I am able to take that risk also because me and my wife have a certain understanding that she takes care of the house in terms of the grocery, in terms of so many
Hmm.
things. And I take care
Mm.
of these other sides. That's where I can go from 55 to even 65, and I can take care of my entire salary towards investment and the expenses which cannot be negotiated. For example, my house loan, tomorrow if I do not have a job, my house loan is not going to stop. So there are certain things that I take care. There are certain
That's right.
things we know that from her salary we can curtail down if need be.
हमसे पूछे कोई कि
Mm.
बिना सैलरी के हाउस लोन कैसे देना होता है. 2 साल हो गए. But that's a great point, and that's a great way to look at things. That you invest first, you make sure the maximum you can invest, still lead your rich life, so that like you are not chasing a fire number, but what you are chasing is a conscious and disciplined approach towards investments and building a corpus.
And
That's
again, fire में भी
ठीक है.
बहुत सारे scenarios
Shubhayu.
built out है. Sorry, Manu, go ahead, please.
Right.
Mm. No, no, please go ahead.
Now, I think since you
Please
talked
continue.
about fire number, we built out multiple scenarios in our fire. Like if my daughter does an education, what would it cost? If she does a medical, what would it cost? Can I even afford it? मुझे कुछ लैंड यदि बेचना होगा तो मैं कैसे, मुझे कब से उसके लिए रेडी होना पड़ेगा? Because I'm not going to just try to sell the land and I'm not going to get it the next day. So I'll have to at least have a 1 year, 2 year margin before I do that. तो बहुत सारे सिनेरियोज बिल्ट आउट हैं, एंड इफ आई वांट टू हैव द बेस्ट पॉसिबल फायर बीइंग एब्सोल्युटली कंजर्वेटिव, देयर इज अ सर्टेन इयर्स दैट आई हैव टू वर्क फॉर. काफी सारे सिनेरियोज बिल्ट आउट हैं.
सो बहुत सारी अच्छी बातें पता चली. मुझे एक बात बहुत, मैंने एक की चीज नोट की कि इन्होंने जो अपने चाइल्ड के एजुकेशन के लिए आरडी कर रहे हैं उनको भी एक्सपेंस में काउंट किया, फिक्स एक्सपेंस में. So Shubhayu has planned it really well. He has divided
I would say, Manu,
55,
sorry, I
65% of
would
his
say that's an
salary.
investment for me. Child's
Ha,
education is an
exactly. That's a
investment for
very
me.
good investment.
हाँ.
It is. It is. Indeed, it's an investment. But these are all good parts, Shubhayu. Do you remember a worse money decision which you made in the past, which you regret, and that could be a learning for younger ourselves to not to repeat it? So, कोई ऐसा कोई decision जो आपको लगता हो कि really बहुत बुरा करा मैंने इस stage पे?
I would say not wrong in terms of how I spent it, but where I spent it. And what I mean by that, on which asset allocation that I spent it with. So initially, I spent it on real estate a lot, and probably if I go back,
अच्छा.
I would want to reverse it and not be so real estate intensive as compared to what I am today. So I think that's something that I would like to. Probably I was not. And again, Manu, that time when I'm talking about 2012 time frame, I would say my first mutual fund investment was 2007. Okay, or 7 या 8,
ओहो.
जो भी है. And उस time पे mutual funds used to have an entry load as well. Forget about exit load. Exit load तो रहता ही था. Entry load भी
Yeah.
रहता था. It was so heavy that time. So I think the awareness towards other asset allocation was very less. And it was amplified by the fact that our parents or my previous generation always used to see this as a fast money making business as compared to a stable LIC oriented investments. So I would say the exposure to different asset allocations at that point led me into investments on a particular asset allocation to start with, which was very heavy. I have diversified a lot, but probably that's something that I would like to, if I can reverse ever, that's the only thing I would like to reverse.
What you're essentially saying is that exposure to different asset classes was not there, and that's why you were more real estate heavy at that time. And
True.
if you could make few changes, what you would do is diversify more. It has got nothing to do with real estate as an asset class.
Exactly. I would love to diversify.
What do you think of real estate as an asset class? आज की डेट में if you have to make a decision, which asset class do you prefer and why?
The equities, see, again, it has to be well balanced. I wouldn't say I wouldn't want it to be as heavy as 40 to 50%. I would want an equal mix. I have heard multiple opinion about real estate as it should be only for your living purpose, your own house, right? I have also heard examples where real estate would have grown 30% CAGR. Again, it is both are extremes of their world. It's like investing in a small case or a small cap, which turns to be a multi-bagger. I'm not telling all real estate investments turn to be a 30% CAGR. Neither do all equity-based investments. So I think there has to be a balanced portfolio, and a real estate which is taken care in terms of personal living for as your retirement house, as well as if you are using that as your rental income, which in Bangalore is good, helps, as well as if you're tying or any of the real estate for a goal, for example, your daughter's education or child's education, that can help. But again, if I can go back, I would want it to diversify in the first place rather than being in a position where I'm trying to diversify now.
और इसमें भी एक I think what you've shared is a great learning. Your asset needs to pay you back. That's the essence of an asset. Like what you mentioned is कि हम बैंगलोर में अगर रियल एस्टेट ले रहे हैं, so the rental kickback is good, the rental yield is good,
Quite right.
and people whenever they are buying assets, they sometimes just do it because किसी ने बोला है, उसका रिटर्न अच्छा होगा, गेन्स अच्छा होगा, बट वो
या
कितने होंगे या कितना कैगर होगा.
और पीयर प्रेशर में फर्क,
हाँ,
कि
राइट.
किसी ने घर खरीद लिया तो मुझे भी खरीदना है, दैट्स सोशल
Mhm.
स्टेटस और सेंस ऑफ अकम्प्लिशमेंट.
और मैं बोलूंगा पीयर प्रेशर आता है ये उन लड़कों से जो
शुभायु
शुरू
टाइप
से
के
ही फर्स्ट आ रहे हैं
शु-
और
शुभायु टाइप के लोगों से
इनकम
मुझे लग रहा
के गिफ्ट खरीद रहे हैं,
है.
या बीआईटी मेसरा से पास आउट होके स्टार्टअप कर रहे हैं अपना.
अच्छा
मनु
जी.
जैसी जनता फर्स्ट आ.
I think you
निडल
guys
घूम गया
have
ये तो.
the other way asset allocation is to have a startup, have it that can give you generational wealth if that grows up, right? You can't even do it
एब्सोल्युटली
on a
शुभायु,
chart if that grows up.
प्राइवेट, हाँ, प्राइवेट इक्विटी में भी इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हो आप.
But yeah, touching on that point, I would strongly not advise anybody to do startup to create generational wealth, because that's the lure or the marketing or the advertisements. What happens in a day-to-day life can really like shake you up until unless your resolve is to create an impact and make a change. So that is one
True.
thing. Apart from the jokes जो हम अभी कर रहे हैं, if somebody is not watching this, I
Oh,
really want to
absolutely.
lay this out कि this is just a joke. And but एक इससे एक point याद आया मेरे को शुभायु, that you mentioned in your journey that you want people to work as a startup even in corporates.
Yeah.
And what exactly is the takeaway there? ऐसा क्या है जो startup सही कर रहे हैं which you want corporate teams to emulate?
I think the sense of decision making. The sense of decision making in a corporate is so hierarchical that by the time you take that decision, it's too late. As well as some of these decisions become so risk averse कि भाई मेरा क्या होने वाला है, rather than thinking कि let's do this, we will figure this out. If and I had one of the CTOs, sorry, a CEO, who made this statement, and probably I'm not quoting in the exact same words. He said that, and that statement was really profound when he talked about in the town hall, that no decision is a bad decision. The decision becomes a bad decision only when you continue to pour in more money, more people, and more time. Then it becomes a bad decision. So you should know when to pull back. Okay. So I think sometimes corporates do not do that. It just continues. Sometimes for startups are forced to take a very harsh decision. And
That's right.
basically, it comes to that empowerment of taking decisions, living with that risk.
That's right. Very well put. Great thoughts. And I would, हम लोग तो बहुत कुछ पूछ चुके हैं. But is there anything which you like would like to ask us related to anything? या हमने कुछ ऐसा पूछ लिया हो जो nerve touch कर गया हो and you want to pay back?
I think it was a very good conversation.
So
Thank you for having me here, Parag and Manu. And I have started using your app, Simplify Money. So I found out some insights on my term insurance coverage, okay? Which probably
oh,
5 years back when I did, I was having a particular mindset. But this kind of helped me with a reality picture कि नहीं भाई इसको थोड़ा और increase करना चाहिए. So this helps. I think the message that you guys are taking care in terms of the financial literacy, I would say, to the folks in India is amazing, because not many have that structured knowledge base that we have to do this. People do not realize about it,
right.
and I'll tell you one example. 2008-9, Parag, we were working for the same company. There were a lot of layoffs, and I'm not telling you this as a story.
Right.
What really pinched me
Right.
hard on this journey was one of our colleagues, one of our team colleague who was laid off, and that guy was struggling to pay his kids' school fees because he was laid off. I think that was the moment where पैसे को लोग सीरियसली, मैं सीरियसली लेना शुरू किया टू अ पॉइंट. इससे पहले क्या होता है कि यू डू बिकॉज you are being asked to save and you think that savings investment is something good to be done. But that incident actually shook me to core कि ऐसा भी होता है and people go through that situation, right? Fortunately, none of us had to go through, but if we are not prepared, I don't know tomorrow क्या होने वाला है. So those kind of things,
True.
do you have emergency funds? And as I was using the app, those things are very important. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing.
थैंक यू. और थैंक यू फॉर द काइंड वर्ड्स. हम लोग के मन में भी एग्जैक्ट सेम प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट था व्हेन Manu and I started, that people should not make the same mistakes which we have made in our lifetime, and we have learned things about money by trial and error. But it doesn't necessarily need to be trial and error. There is technology, there is like knowledge, abundance of knowledge in terms of books or social media or whatever, right? And if you could extract the right things, present in the right way, make it appealing for the young audience, then there is a message to be given and there is a message to be received. That's also our message, that nobody should ever feel deprived of a personal. Great. I think we touched upon some really great points, starting with Shubhayu, your journey. How did you start wealth accumulation? And it is very important to be conscious around these things. We touched about the role of technology, how to embrace AI, what are the good money lessons, some of them being diversification, some of them being starting early, some of them being having a disciplined approach. I think there's a lot to learn from here, and thanks a lot for your time. Manu, what's your take?
Yeah, thank you so much, Shubhayu. And after knowing you, well, love to you to be part of the sessions going forward as well. So
Right.
we can talk about different avenues, be your journey, how you searched for technology, and much more. Because your vast experience in this arena will surely help the youngest, the newbies in this domain to do better, much better.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, Manu. Thank you,
So
Parag.
thanks, Shubhayu.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks a lot,
Thank,
you. And please spread the message. This was Parag and Manu simplifying life with Shubhayu. All right, guys.
yeah, thanks for your time, Shubhayu.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.
Bye. Have fun. Cheers.
If you found value in today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. It helps more people simplify their money too.